Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Bhavik. It's a real honor to be keynoting at this event today. Like so many of you in this room, for many years, I've been dreaming of the day I would be able to access mass-scale compute in order to process a content job. In the media and entertainment space, the benefits of high performance and grid computing have been around for over 2 decades, though mostly have been isolated to the confines of visual effects, high-end visual effects houses. Those guys always get to have all the fun. But that is no longer the case. We're beginning to see a change here. Thanks to advances from public cloud providers, along with some clever digital media technologists, we are quickly opening up high-performance computing to a larger audience of creative professionals. Just a couple weeks back, one of my favorite customers was in a bind. They had near run out of storage and were looking to find a way to move several hundred terabytes of media, and they needed to get all of that media checksummed as quickly as possible. We worked on a new workflow, which once ready and once implemented, was able to scale out to dozens of EC2 nodes, and we were able to rapidly chew through all that data. What once would have taken days to weeks to process through traditional digital media technologies was now being done in a mere number of hours. This is just one of many examples that help illustrate the power of cloud and how it can be used to benefit our industry. The power of cloud and its use for digital media is no longer a pipe dream. It is no longer a mystery. It is now a reality. Welcome to Sony MCS. Sony Media Cloud Services provide on-demand, cloud-based solutions designed to capture, collect, create, manage, produce, and archive high-value, high-resolution content. Our services and our product are embodied in C, as in Cirrus, the cloud. We are passionate about digital media and are here to help you manage your media needs. There are several digital media facts of life we have come to accept. The very first is that the amount of data that we have to manage is growing exponentially. Mark did a great job just explaining that earlier. A Sony f/65 4K camera will generate up towards 1 terabyte of data per hour. A full feature film may generate up towards 10 petabytes of information during its entire life cycle. All of this data, all this information needs to be properly tagged, needs to be indexed, needs to be securely organized, managed, and archived so that the right folks can access the right content all at the right time. Modern TV and film productions have become a distributed affair. They involve dozens of different actors, all sorts of different players, who ultimately all need to contribute and share around massive amounts of data. All the while, they need quicker turnaround times. They ultimately need faster content processing and faster transfer. So what are the more common technical challenges facing CIOs and CTOs given the media management concerns we've just talked about? In my prior life as head of our Sony Pictures Digital Media Group, and based on shared feelings from colleagues, some in this room and many from other studios, here are some of the more prominent concerns that have kept us up awake at night. First off, we're dealing with some very tech-savvy and demanding users, and they have real needs. Their infrastructure requirements continue to grow. They truly are supersized. We're all facing a variety of budget constraints, and the security requirements we need to contend with are ever increasing. The big question for many CIOs and CTOs becomes whether the cloud is ready for outsourcing digital media systems. Our creative professional users are the ultimate drivers of our requirements. Their demands are clear. They require more storage, quicker processing, faster transfer times, and immediate and ubiquitous access to their content from anywhere around the world. They're also wanting to have access to user-friendly applications and solutions. Think Hulu, YouTube, Netflix-like experiences. Digital media infrastructure providers are oftentimes very stressed trying to handle all these needs. If you compare digital media infrastructure needs versus traditional IT data center needs, you'll see a big difference. In the traditional IT data centers, they're mostly dealing with financial, business type systems, and they certainly do not get strained the same way folks on the digital media side are being strained. The digital media infrastructure providers need to contend with accelerated transport, highly scalable storage, bursty processing. They need to be able to provide high availability, and this needs to be part of the design of these infrastructures. And once again, this is just one other area where cloud truly comes to the rescue of so many of our needs. Back to budget pressures. The continuous cost pressures are real. Cloud by no means is cheap, but it does have certain advantages. Mark talked about a few of them. I think a great one is just being able to shift from a capital expenditure to more of an OpEx type model. This oftentimes will allow you to better align your costs to a given project or even production title, for instance. In terms of tighter security requirements, this is definitely one of the more important areas where we spend a lot of time. This is extremely critical for us. Our systems have to be designed with security in mind. Our customers demand it. We have highly sensitive content in our systems. And ultimately, our reputations depend on ensuring that we maintain that security. Sony MCS has actually greatly benefited from a lot of great work that AWS has done. And Mark mentioned earlier how AWS was actually one of the first cloud providers, as far as we know, that actually passed some very stringent MPAA best practice guidelines. And we were able to do the same after AWS took lead on it. And it definitely benefited to us to have known that AWS completed it. We're ISO 27001 certified, similar to AWS. But once again, just to go a little bit beyond certifications, this is an area where we're spending a lot of resources. We are continuously and proactively monitoring and watching over the content that is located within our custody. The use of digital media in the cloud has certainly been hyped for quite some time, but I believe there is good reason to be bullish. For starters, if we look at our hype cycle, we'll start off with several technology triggers. We've got camera to cloud, we have remote desktop, and big media archive. And we'll speak about those in a later slide. Disaster recovery and business continuity are actually great use cases of how cloud can be used for digital media. Because once again, in this type of circumstance, you can place a lot of your storage, a lot of your media, maybe in less expensive AWS Glacier storage, for instance. You can set up your environment in the cloud without necessarily spinning it up until disaster strikes or you want to test it along the way. And so what you've done, in essence, is you've reduced to almost nothing the amount of capital expenditure that you have to throw into this, and you're only paying for OpEx when you really need it. Towards the top of the technology triggers is CapEx, which we've actually just mentioned again. So what we're talking about here is this ability to shift from a CapEx model over to an OpEx model. And there's been a lot of hype around that, but we've certainly seen a lot of it come to reality. At the peak of inflated expectations, I sort of place three items here: standardization, data privacy, and cloud outages. First off with standardization, I'm mostly referencing here standardization of metadata for cloud workflows, for instance, and even workflow interfaces. And there have been many good vendors out there who've been working very hard with a lot of content providers, content owners, to try to standardize. I think just to date, I have not seen all that much come out of it in terms of just final results. I hope we continue to work towards these. I just haven't seen it come to fruition just yet. Data privacy is a minefield. It is becoming that much more difficult thanks to some of our recent NSA-related events. And it certainly becomes compounded as you're starting to deal with international customers. I know there's some great minds working with the regulatory bodies, and I'm confident that over time a lot of this will become simplified, but it certainly is one of the more difficult areas that we and other content owners and providers and the Amazons of the world are needing to contend with. Cloud outages are simply a fact of life, and one of the first things that most Amazon engineers will tell you is just deal with it, anticipate it, and design around it. But certainly, cloud is not infallible. At the trough of disillusionment comes cross-cloud interoperability. In my mind, cross-cloud interoperability is an oxymoron. I just haven't seen much of it amongst the larger cloud providers out there. You know, I certainly commend a lot of the work of OpenStack and other organizations, but certainly would love to see a lot more coming from Amazon, Azure, Google, and the likes to better enable us as users to see a little bit more operability. But back to the fun stuff, and the reason I am so bullish on cloud and on our Sony C product is that we're seeing a lot of maturity. We have a lot of technologies that, in my mind, have truly made it to that slope of enlightenment, to that plateau of productivity. Durability, ease of deployment, geo-redundancy, parallel content processing, optimized streaming, secure large file sharing, these are all real. These have all reached a stage of maturity where we are using these for real customers right now. So back to our C offering. Our C stack is shown right here at a very high level. And what you'll notice is at a very high level, it really follows the basics of most modern digital media management systems, except that we've broken a little bit from tradition by our heavier reliance on Amazon Web Services as far as our infrastructure goes. But in terms of the stack, our Amazon Web Service infrastructure is providing the hosting and all the necessary platforms to enable our core services API, which itself is enabling a variety of digital asset management services and applications, as well as other outside tools and applications. These applications are what our end users ultimately are using to interact with assets that are managed through our digital asset management solution. And I'm hoping we'll have a little bit of time towards the end to demo some very cool tools that some of our guys have put together. Our architectural tenets are threefold. First off, to provide high scalability and availability, to provide a digital media platform with core services and a common indexed repository of assets, and to provide a suite of applications and tools and a plan to allow in the future for third-party tools to directly interact with your content that would be stored in C. The architecture design basis for C stems from interactions with literally thousands of different digital media customers, most of them from Sony Pictures. This is where a lot of the origins of our technology is coming from Sony Pictures Digital Media Group. And within the Digital Media Group, they continue to cater to literally hundreds of different workflows. As we look at all these different hundreds of workflows, most of them boil down to just a few very basic usage needs. First, one wants to load files as quickly as possible into the system, along with metadata and security tagging. Users are then going to need to be able to search, browse, and preview for their content. They'll want to download and share their content. And finally, they'll want to interact with their content directly with web-based tools. Designing a high available and scalable solution does not come without its share of technical challenges. We've highlighted a few of those in red on this slide, and we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail here. One is just all about maximizing file transfer throughput while minimizing the impact of latency. The second is optimizing content processing. That's really my favorite. Minimizing infrastructure cost becomes another. That's our CFO's favorite. And designing to handle the unexpected is our CEO's favorite. As we continue to improve our mass ingest workflow, we strive to reduce and eliminate any bottlenecks. Latency kills, especially when you're dealing with long-haul transfers, say between the US and Australia, say for very large files such as 200 gigabyte DCP, digital cinema packages. While we can't change the speed of light, at least not yet, we can mitigate the impacts of latency and poor connectivity in other ways. There are really two ways of doing this. One is to leverage UDP, and we heard Mark talk a little bit about this. So we use Aspera in our stack, and that ultimately allows us just to mitigate otherwise chattiness of HTTP and FTP type protocols. And the second advantage that we're leveraging now is through CDN. So we use Amazon's CloudFront, and we use it to actually cache video files so they can be located that much more close to the end users. And we're also investigating the use of CDN with other providers to find better ways to route as quickly as possible the data between the origin or the web servers on the Amazon side all the way through to our customers. Working on optimizing throughput and, more importantly, content processing while having access to the power of a performant, scalable infrastructure is a digital media technologist dream. You can ask Chad, who's right here in the front row, and it's just really fun to do. One of our favorite activities is just to continuously challenge all of our design patterns to refine how to better leverage the cloud to more optimally process content. We're primarily focused on two simple goals here. The first is we want to process your content as quickly as we can, as speedily as we can. And the second is to accomplish goal number one for as low a cost as possible. And where the fun truly begins is that really you need to consider a variety of different patterns. There are all sorts of different levers that you're going to be able to use with an Amazon stack, with a lot of the software that we've built on top of it, that ultimately are going to force you to make a variety of decisions, many of them that have to happen literally within milliseconds, to determine what is the right way of processing a given content processing job. This entails a lot of the parameters that we have called out right here. For instance, what is the right number of procs that you want to throw at the job? How many cores do you want? What is the right size of that proc? How much RAM? How much I/O? When you're purchasing these EC2 nodes, do you actually want to go ahead and pre-reserve instances? Are you going to buy on demand? Are you going to chance it and maybe go for some spot instances and actually save quite a bit of money? Finding the right thread count is important. Finding the right segment size of the files that are getting launched into this is also an important decision. Trying to figure out how to get the right queuing mechanism in place. Anyhow, all these are just a lot of the different facets that make this job just so exciting. This is something we just absolutely obsess over. A large majority of digital media costs from cloud usage will stem from storage. And I think a lot of you in the room have probably seen this. The EC2 costs can certainly add up, but over time, storage really becomes one of the bigger areas where you really want to find ways to just judiciously minimize your cost. There are four primary drivers to do this, and four drivers that you're really going to be paying close attention to along the way. They're called out right here. One is availability, performance, durability, and cost. During the lifetime of an asset, its storage medium will cycle through a variety of storage tiers. Closer attention to optimizing the appropriateness of these tiers will have a direct impact on your bottom line. We're implementing a variety of tricks to better anticipate the which, when, how, and where to appropriately store your content. Hardware and software failures are a fact of life. We spoke a little bit about this earlier. The unexpected will happen. I can't tell you the number of times I've been out fishing in the ocean and a piano will just fall out of the sky. But seriously, we just know these things will happen. AWS architects, once again, will be the first to tell you just to be warned and to anticipate failure at all times. As always, this will involve a variety of trade-offs, including how many redundant servers do you want to have in place? Across how many availability zones do you want to spin them up? Do you want to go multi-region? All this needs to be done with a constrained budget in mind. Back to our earlier question, is cloud ready for showtime? As you can tell, we are certainly of the mind that the cloud is ready and here to stay. We're working with a few big-name media customers who are using C as we speak. Here are just a few of the ways in which it is now providing value to businesses around town and productions around the world. Whether it's previewing dailies or managing stock footage content or backup for emergency or DR type of contacts or archive, we're open for business, and I suspect we're merely scratching the surface at this time. We acknowledge we're in the infancy of cloud use for digital media and know that the cloud is not suitable for all usage scenarios, at least not yet. We are passionately working on breaking new ground to plan for next-generation digital media solutions. Here's a quick preview of what's ahead. Much of our earlier focus to date had to do with just finding clever ways and manageable ways to get your content into our C working environment. And this is a lot of the focus that we're working on since last April, since NAB, all the way through IBC. And at IBC, we started announcing more of our tools, ways to interact with the content. And one of the cool new tools that we developed and actually announced at IBC is our Rough Cut tool, which you're actually seeing on the left side of the screen right here. And Rough Cut is basically a very light editing solution that allows you to do some very early basic editing of content that you have located in your C platform. Once again, it's merely just a web-based application. Similar types of activities could be done in other ways. And Mark talked a little bit about these. Some of us call these just remote desktop or PC over IP or virtual desktop type of alternatives that allow you to directly work off a workstation to some extent that's located right out there in the cloud, in which case really your terminal is just a dumb terminal interacting with all the processing and even all the interactions happening right there in the cloud. Believe that both options have merit. There's certainly a variety of trade-offs and reasons why you may want to go with one option over the other, such as how much bandwidth do you have available? What kind of performance are you expecting? What kind of scalability do you need? What kind of feature set are you going after? We look forward to exploring these possibilities in more detail and working with you. Like Mark, we are very bullish in understanding and seeing how next-gen 3D animation, conforming, finishing, and many other post-production operations can be performed with greater efficiency in a cloud environment. Is archive for digital media content ready for cloud? We believe that right now, much of this is becoming an emotional decision, I'm getting emotional over this, rather than a technical one. We think that the primary challenges really are technical and business related here. On the technical side, we're mostly talking about what is the durability and integrity. You need to make sure that in 20 years from now, when you're trying to access your content, that it is going to be fully whole. From an availability perspective, you want to make sure that in 20 years from now, you will be able to access your content in a reasonable amount of time. Business considerations obviously are extremely important as well. There are many facets to the cost aspect of this. First off, there are all the potentially encoding and migration costs, all the tagging that has to happen to ultimately populate and move this content into a cloud environment. Then you have your reoccurring monthly storage-related costs. One of the areas where cloud is great is in terms of refresh costs. This is something where Amazon is really handling this for you. They're providing it as a service, and so ultimately your content is just being refreshed by somebody who is responsible for doing this, is their core competency. So you don't have to worry about recycling from one LTO generation to the next, for instance. Provider sustainability is also extremely important. You want to make sure that you're working with some big name companies that you know are going to be around for the next 20, 50, 100 years. Keep an eye out for MCS in your archive plans. We're very bullish over archiving of digital media. What if you had a magic red button on your camera that automatically uploaded anything you shot into your cloud management system anytime you pressed it. Some Sony mad scientists have been hard at work, and they are working on making this dream a reality. So much so that we actually just showed this very exact type system operational at IBC just a few weeks back. Stay tuned. We're very excited about this technology, and you will be seeing some press announcements very soon on this very technology. And now we're getting close to the demo part of today. This is something I always get a little nervous over, is just a live demo. But what I have here is actually one of the coolest apps our developers have put together. It's called C Capture. And this is still just a working prototype. But C Capture basically allows me, through my iPhone, to capture any video and then send that video straight to your cloud working environment. And a little earlier, I actually went ahead and tried this out. And so I'm going to log in real quick. I know I'm almost out of time. So we'll just try to do this as quickly as we can. But I just want to show this off. I'm just so impressed with what some of our developers have come up with here. So right here, I'm not sure if I can get on the screen what I'm looking at. Sorry. So I'm in the Chrome web browser here. Oh, cool. Magic. Yep, perfect. Thanks. And so right here, we're actually in our new C Workspace product. This has some very basic digital asset management or digital media management capabilities. And so there are a variety of ways to get content in here. And the way I got this asset in earlier was actually literally through this iPhone. And that's just a very short clip, mostly just for demo purposes. But one of the things I just wanted to dive into very quickly before we completely run out of time is demonstrate Rough Cut, which once again I think is just one of the highlights of some of the new generation of tools that we're working on. And so Rough Cut, actually what we'll do is we'll go into a pre-created session. But Rough Cut, once again, is that light editing solution that we mentioned earlier. And in order to create a session, what we did is we actually selected several reference files that were already loaded into our C solution. And now what we're able to do is enter, and you can do this collaboratively with other users, you can enter into this session right here. And the clips that you select would be shown on the left side right here. And then you can interactively, or at any point in time, actually select a new range and then add it to the cut list, or create even a new cut list. And we'll do that right here. And as you continue to do stuff, you can actually even reorder your cut list at any point in time and then preview your content. And so let's go back to, right here. And right here, yeah, we'll just grab a few other selection ranges just to make it a little bit more interesting. But I think you probably get the gist of it. Once again, this is through a web-based tool. We're just dealing with the stream that's coming off an Amazon server and very quickly creating this edit-like session. Once again, very light editing. And we can reorder all of these different clips in a variety of ways. So as to, once again, recreate a new order. So anyhow, that really is most of what I was wanting to show you in terms of C. I truly do appreciate your time. I thank you for just listening to this incredibly fun journey we've had where we've been partnered very closely with Amazon along the way. We are very excited about the prospects of digital media in the cloud. And we hope you are too. So thank you so much for your attention.